Okay guys, I decided to just throw together this little video here to try and help some of you guys out that aren't too used to this restrictor plate racing and the pack drafting and stuff. I'm just going to point out some little things that, quite honestly, they don't always work because things are just so fluid and dynamic on the track. But if you can spot the right situation that looks similar to what I'm going to show you here, you can take advantage of some of these things. So this is on a restart. Obviously, I'm fourth, the 84 car on the outside. It looks pretty standard. We're going to get a run on the outside here because the leader on the inside has no help. But then just watch what I do. I'm going to push this 76 car to the lead. And when he drops to the bottom, I don't even think about following him. Because as you'll see, he's going to be so far out in front of the 74 car on the inside that if I just stay up, that 76 car doesn't have help anymore. So see here, he drops down, and look at this big gap between the 76 and the 74. So, if you're not aware of how the draft works, obviously the car behind gets a tow, gets the slipstream and gains speed that way, but the car in front also gains speed because the car behind is pushing him along with the air. Well, that's why the leader is able to somewhat maintain pace with the cars behind that are getting that draft. So a lot of people, when they first hear about drafting, they think only the trailing car gets a benefit. The lead car gets a benefit as well. So what happens here is this guy drops down, and now he has no drafting help really. And I do. So I decided to just stay up and try and take the lead. And as you'll see, we pretty easily take the lead. So, look at how long it takes them to get up there to help him. And by that time, I already have all the momentum. And then the 74 just doesn't do a very good job. Maybe if the 74 did a better job, this wouldn't have worked. So, like I said, these things don't always work. They depend on, there's a lot of factors that it depends on, but sometimes you see those little situations and you could take advantage of them. Alright, so another situation here, this is also on a restart. Kind of the opposite thing is going to happen here. These outside cars are going to get a run on me because I don't have very good help, and they're going to get around me. And then I'm going to do almost the same exact thing that I did before, except it's going to happen a little bit different. So now I have help, but the outside line has much better help. Look how tight they are. They're going to get better speed from that. So now, of course, this 48 car gets in front of me. Now he's going to pull down, and these guys on the outside are going to drop back a little bit. Now I'm going to get a run on the 48, but I had noticed earlier in the race that I really don't like the way this 07 car pushes the guy that's right behind me. And I do like the way the 58 and the 47 I felt like were good cars. So I felt like, if I could get up in front of them, the three of us with good cars may be able to do something here. I really felt like the 48, the 58, and the 47 were the best cars besides me. So if you can get the three of us on the outside versus the one good car on the inside, I felt like we would have a pretty decent chance of making a good run on the outside. Now watch what happens. I put this 48 car in pretty much the same position I had the other guy in the last situation. I'm going to pull out from behind him, and he's going to have no help until that 07 gets there, and just watch how we blow by him. See how quickly I gained speed on him because he had no pusher. Now he's going to get a decent push, and we're going to go side by side. So now we're going to go down the corner. And this is one thing I'm sure you guys are mostly aware of the side draft. So if you see where I'm at now in relation to the 48, if I pull down very low, like just barely leaving him room, I'm basically going to make him side draft me. So you don't want to do that. So if you can, you want to leave some gap. Like that was even maybe a little bit too close, because if he moved up a little bit, he could have side drafted me, or he could have tried to drift into me and wreck me. But the other thing is you also have to pay attention to the guy behind you. He may try to split you 3 wide if you drift up too high. Now, I felt pretty confident this guy wanted to push me, so look at how high I'm drifting. And the other thing is to consider, I'm much higher than he is, than the 48 is in a turn, which means I'm going a longer distance. I'm going a longer distance than him, but I'm still pretty much maintaining side by side with him. That means I have to be going. I have to be going faster than him to be maintaining this distance. Matter of fact, if we look at the speeds here, you see I'm going 197 and he's going 196. That has to be the case. I'm going a longer distance, but I'm not really losing any ground to him. I have to be going faster. What's going to happen then is when we get on the straightaway, watch this. We're just all, and now his help dropped back too. So I mean, this is just all snowballing. All 3 of us just blow by him. And the other thing you'll notice too, both the last time I passed for the lead and this time, both times, as soon as a lot of times what you'll see guys do is, as soon as they clear that inside car, they'll dive to the bottom. And if you got, like if it's the end of the race, or if you got a pit stop coming up or something, you really need to get to the bottom, sure, go ahead and do that. Or if it really looks like that inside line's about to get going and you're just going to get freight trained, yeah, get to the bottom. But if you can, stay up there and pull that guy that just pushed you to the lead. Most guys will understand if you abandon them, if you really need to, especially if they're not a teammate. You know, that's just racing, especially this type of racing. But if you didn't, like those guys, I really didn't need to abandon them, so I didn't. And that sticks in their head. Like later on in the race, if there's a situation where they have a choice between helping me and another guy, that could be the difference. They may not even realize it. They may not make a conscious decision like, oh, I'm going to help him. But it's all psychology, man. Like those little things could stick in their mind and they might help you later. And the other thing is if I dove down to the bottom as fast as we were blowing by that 48 car, they could have done the same thing to me. They could have stayed on the outside and probably went by me because I would have had no help on the bottom if they didn't follow me to the bottom. You know, so these are all just things that happen in split seconds that you got to think of and try and take advantage of. All right, now this is a totally different situation. This isn't really a drafting tips and trips kind of thing so much as a how not to get yourself wrecked kind of thing. So this guy in the 26 car, the red and white car, he's going to do something stupid here. So just don't do this, okay? So the 00, the second car on the outside, he's going to try and pull down in front of this guy, and it looks like he's not really sure whether he wants to or not, and he doesn't quite get down all the way. Then a 26 runs in the back of him, and then he drifts up in the middle of the track. And then watch what happens. I mean, it just... Most of you guys would probably just look at this and be like, well, I would never do this anyway because this is stupid. But, you know, just in case, you know, maybe you've never experienced something like this, I'm just going to explain something here. When you're this guy, you got to remember these cars, you're all going pretty much the same speed, more or less, you know, within a couple miles of each other. And when you're in a line like this, the guy behind you is pretty much doing the exact same speed as you. So when you drift up the track like this, now all of a sudden you're going a longer distance, and that guy that's still on the inside is going a shorter distance at the same speed. You know, if, like what I was saying earlier, when I was on the outside and I was actually going faster than the guy on the inside, yeah, then you're going to maintain that gap. But in this case, these guys were just all in a line. They're pretty much going the same speed, and now this 26 car is up the track. So, you know, if you're both going 200 and you're going a longer distance than this guy in the 96 car is, he's going to gain ground on you. So once you drift up the track like this, you should not assume that you are clear to come back down. I mean, as soon as you drift up, you're going to start losing ground to the car behind you just based on that distance, even if he's not faster than you. So, and then he just waits way too long to try to get back down too, which is just stupid. I mean, by this time, he really should have known not to come back down. So I don't know what he was thinking. He was probably just mad. Like, the first thing that happened with the 00 wasn't really his fault. The 00 kind of cut him off a little bit, but not really. You know, But I mean, so he may have just been aggravated from that, and then he just made a poor decision. So just don't do that. All right, so restart again. A lot of these things happen on the restarts because as the cars are getting up to speed, the draft makes a much bigger difference as far as getting up to speed than it does when you're up to speed. Like if you take two cars that are in line and a car by himself, and you both start from a standstill and let those two cars that are drafting get up to speed at the same time as the other car that's by himself, the two cars drafting together will gain speed quite a bit quicker. So that's why restarts are some of your best opportunities to do stuff. Now here, I'm not going to... basically what I was trying to do here is I liked the 58 car pushing me. And in the Clash, I had a guy that I liked pushing me, and then every time we had a yellow, obviously he's on my outside. So I want to get him down behind me. So what I was trying to do here was kind of jump this start a little bit. I mean, I didn't do anything illegal, but I'm going to go a little earlier than they expected to try and get a gap to the 47, so hopefully the 58 could drop down in front of him, and we could all just get in line and go like we were before. I mean, we were setting really fast laps. But it doesn't work out. The 58 didn't expect me to do that, so he didn't go either. But now what happens is I've got this big gap to me now. Now they're running side by side, which is advantageous to me. If they were in a line, that could be bad because they're gonna draft up to you really fast. But I really have no drafting help at this point. Neither do they, which is a good thing, really. But so what I'm going to do here, I'm in a little bit of a vulnerable position here because I'm out by myself. So I'm going to stay high for a second for two reasons. One is I'm trying to pull that 58 and keep him next to the 47. Just because two cars next to each other, they don't punch through the air as well as a single car line does. So that'll actually keep them from gaining on me quite so fast as if I had just pulled that 47 the whole time. He might have already been clear by now, and then he'd be getting a bigger run on me. So I'm pulling that 58. The other thing that this is doing is I'm running that little bit longer distance, so I'm gaining a little bit more speed. I mean, the differences here are tiny, but these tiny differences can make a difference. Now, obviously, when that 47 starts to get close to me, I want to get down in front of him. You don't want to wait too late to do that for two reasons. One, obviously, you don't want to get protested for blocking. The other reason is once he gets within a car length or so, you got to get in front of him so you start getting that draft push from him. Obviously, I could get some draft push from the 58 too, but he's a little bit further back, so it's going to take I ain't going to get quite as good a push from him. And anyway, the bottom line has, there's two cars in the bottom and one up top, so you want to get back to the bottom anyway. But again, you don't want to wait too long because you want to get down and get that push. And a crash ends up happening here, so none of this made a difference. But just that little bit of extra speed that I had from running the outside, and that little bit of extra speed that I'm going to get from making sure I got down in front of him soon enough that I start getting a push, that could be all the difference between that guy deciding I have a good enough run to pull out and try and pass him or not. You know what I mean? So that's just another little thing. Most of these tricks are all psychological. It's making the other guy do what you want him to do without him realizing it. So now a crash happened here, so none of this really matters. But anyway, I'm going to go forward to one last thing here. All right, so one last thing here. I wish I had my sim set to record my mirror. I keep the actual in-car mirrors off, and I just use the virtual mirror. But if you could see the mirror from my cockpit view, would be the best view of this for you to see exactly what's going on. But unfortunately, the mirror doesn't render in my replays, so I'm going to play it from here. I was actually in the wrong car there, but what I'm going to show you here is there's certain situations, and I know some of you guys know this stuff already, but there are certain situations where you might want to lift a little bit while you're in the lead. And the reason for that is you don't want the car behind you to get too far back, because then he's going to get a nice big run up to you. Now this is coming to the white flag. We're on the backstretch now. We're about to go into turn 3. The 48 car gets a little, he goes a little high. I don't know if he does this on purpose or not, but then when he I guess he notices that the guys behind him are trying to make a move on him, so he jerks it back down, and he actually clips the apron a little bit, and he gets a little out of shape. And he's all this stuff between him going high and then he gets out of shape, he's going to lose some speed. Now, I don't want to just keep it floored because I would pull way away from him, and we still got, a lap and a half to go. So then they would get a big run on me, coming to the white or going into turn one, or, it just depends on when exactly they get back to me. But so if you watch my throttle input, I'm going to lift here in the middle of the corner to keep them from getting, to keep myself from getting too far away. And now another thing I'm going to do is, so now these guys are, you could see them stacking up, like we're coming to the white. There's only 6 cars in this group, I think. These guys are getting antsy. The guys that are 4th, 5th, they want to make a move. So if you, one thing I learned a long time ago is, sometimes you can make those guys race when they don't really want to, per se. So now, like the 48 car, he just wants everybody to stay in line so they can push him past me. If you just stay on the bottom, everybody else is going to mostly stay on the bottom for the most part, except guys trying to make moves. What I'm going to do here, since I gained a little distance, I'm going to move up to the outside. And there's 2 things that I'm hoping to happen here. One, either the 48 car follows me, and that opens up for the car behind him to make a move on him, or one of the cars behind him sees me on the outside and thinks, okay, I can jump up there and make a move because I can draft him. And then I could just drop back to the bottom or get in front of whichever line. But the idea here is just to move around just so that those guys, they see something different. We've been single file around the inside for the last 5 laps. So they see this now, and it's like, it makes them want to do something, So you get these guys racing. So he drifts up a little bit. Look at how far out I'm going to move. So now he doesn't follow me, which is what I was hoping he would follow me. So that maybe one of the guys behind him would get to his inside. That doesn't happen. But these guys behind him, they're all starting to race now. And most of this is because of what happened back in the middle of the corner. It's not necessarily because of what I just did. But that was my intention, was that, you've got a little bit of a gap there. And if he doesn't have a good push where he's just going to blow by you, you could move around a little bit to try and get those guys behind you racing a little bit. So now these guys are going to get 3 wide, and they're actually going to wreck. And that's going to be less push that this guy has to go by me. The only thing is, what I just did there could be sketchy as far as getting protested for blocking. I wasn't blocking. I didn't move down to cut him off. He really didn't have a run on me anyway. But he could probably protest. I don't know if they would penalize me for it or not. But so you really got to be careful doing that, though, obviously. But again, these guys crash. And now this 4th car is actually dropping back, so now this guy behind me, he only really has 1 helper. So now again, you get down in the corner, and I'm lifting. And what I'm doing is I'm just keeping him right on my bumper so he can't get any momentum. And you can see my throttle trace, I'm not lifting much. It doesn't take a lot. You're just breathing it for a split second to just keep that distance the same. Keep him in that bubble that they talk about so he can't get a run on you. And then obviously once you're coming out of turn 4 of the checkers, you just want to keep it floored. So anyway, that was a decent example in the Clash. I'm going to pull up my Clash replay, and you'll see there's a much more drastic example of it. All right, one last thing here. This is pretty much the same thing as the last thing with lifting while you're in the lead, but this is just a much more drastic example. So this is the 2nd place car. This is in the Clash the other night, last weekend. So I'm in the lead here. We're riding along the 2nd place car. As we go through turns 1 and 2, I'm just going to change cameras here so you can see what's going on here. We have a look at this big gap. That's like 2.5, 3 car lengths. As we go through 1 and 2, he tries to back up to these guys. You can actually hear him lift in his in-car. He doesn't lift a ton, but you can actually hear him. He wants to back up to those guys, get a little bit of a gap to me, so those guys will shove him up to me so he gets a nice big run so he can make a pass on me on the backstretch. Now, as you go through 1 and 2, you listen, especially in the second half of the corner, you can actually hear him lifting. Now, he didn't lift a lot. He might not even have lifted. He might have just drugged the brake a tiny bit. But you got to, when you're the leader, you got to watch for that. Guys behind you, if they know what they're doing. This guy, we drafted together most of the race. I mean, he was good. I mean, so I almost kind of expected this from him. So I was watching my mirror. So you got to watch for this, because if guys do this, you can counter. So if you watch me, actually, I'm already lifting a little bit here just to keep them close to me. I'm going to go back to my right rear suspension here because my mirror's not rendering. But yeah, I'm just keeping him there. And now here, I really have to lift a lot because he really drops back. Watch my throttle trace. Now, again, you got to be super careful doing that because, obviously you lift a little bit too much and they're gonna gain on you really quick. So I mean, it's a very tricky thing. I mean, if you've never done it before, I would suggest practice it in practice. You don't want to practice it during the race. Definitely not during the 500 if you've never done it. But anyway, so two things happen here. One, this keeps him from getting too far behind me where he would get a really big run on me. The other thing that happens is this causes those two cars behind us to close on us, the two front cars, to close on us quicker than they would have if we had both stayed full throttle. That does two things. You got to remember, those guys in third and fourth want to win too. They don't just want to sit there and push this guy in second. So when this guy in second, one, he doesn't get a very good run on me because I never let him get too far back. So when he does get his run, it's kind of weak. And when he gets his run, the guys behind him have a run on him. So they want to do something too. So what ends up happening here is when he moves, the guy in third goes with me, just because the guy in second doesn't have much momentum. So why would you want to jump up to the outside and kill your own momentum when he does? So he moves out, and that guy in third, he had so much momentum, he was like, I'm not going with him. So these things, they can like I said, they make guys make different decisions. And it's not like a conscious thing. So, I mean, he didn't even really think about going with him. He had all the momentum. He wasn't going to go with that guy. And then from here, it's just drag race. Like, I don't think I lift anymore from here because you're side by side. And then there, what I'm doing is I'm just kind of, you want to keep those guys side by side behind you. So you're just kind of splitting the draft. The thing that I did wrong here, though, is I got in between them. So like right here, I made a mistake here. I'm actually not really getting any push from either of these cars because I'm in between them. So I mean, if you have the space, I mean, I had almost a car length on the guy in the bottom. If I wanted to move up and pull that outside car, I could, but I should have made a little bit of a more definitive decision, I guess, to move up. The other thing you got to remember, though, is when you move up in the middle of the corner, you're moving uphill. You're basically driving uphill, so you are going to lose speed. So shifting to the outside lane in the middle of the corner is usually not a good idea unless you've really got momentum, because you lose speed because you're driving up a hill basically. So yeah, so I actually did not do this very well. I should have moved all the way up in front of him, and I didn't. And then here you can see this outside. The red car here, he actually has the momentum on the outside. I could have just stayed in front of him, and I would have been fine. I mean, I was fine anyway, but then he would have never even got next to me. But yeah, so anyway, I tried not to make this too long-winded because that's a failing of mine. I tend to talk and talk and talk. But I hope this helps some of you guys. If it, like I said in the chat, if it only helps one of you, that's worth it. So